I am Dr. Chitramali De Silva, Director Maternal and Child Health, Family Health Bureau of the Ministry of Health. So I'll be talking to you today about promoting mental well-being among young persons. So objective of this session would be what is mental health and well-being, magnitude of the mental health issues, describe features of positive mental health, list determinants of mental health and how this could be modified, and also to describe measures available to promote positive mental health among young persons, describe preventive measures, and also to describe the available mental health services. So there are a few basic concepts that we are dealing here with. Nature of mental health. So how the mental health and mental well-being happens. The determinants of mental health in young people. So what are the factors which determines the mental health of young people? What are the services available and how the ways of improving the services and also the mental well-being. So those are the main basic concepts of the discussion. So we look at the statistics of mental health and well-being of our population. When we look at the mental health burden in Sri Lanka, 10% of our population is affected by any mental health problem. So that means it is not a small issue. So a magnitude is huge. And also 800,000 people are subjected to depression annually. 2% of the population suffer from major psychiatric disorders such as depression, schizophrenia and bipolar disorders. So that is nearly 2% of the population. And also the other important thing is nearly 3,000 people are dying every year. That means suicides are happening every year for 3,000 people. So we are prematurely they die because of the suicides. Alcohol use is also considered as a mental health issue. Nearly 40% of men are using alcohol in Sri Lanka, and also among women 2.4% the above age of 15. So we don't have latest statistics right now, but anyway this was based on the 2016 data, but it's not a minute issue. So we have to pay attention on substance abuse. When you look at the young people, mental health issues, when you look at the world scenario, 20% of the world's children and adolescents have mental health disorder. That means 1/5 of the population will have some sort of a mental ill health. Depression is the third leading cause of illness and disability among the adolescents. So we think that the depression is more common among older people, but it is the third leading cause of illness among the adolescents as well. Suicide is the third leading cause of death among the older adolescents, that is between the 15 to 19 years of age. So it's a big problem. And also when you look at the suicide rates, age-specific suicide rates are highest among the adolescents and youth in the whole world and also even in Sri Lanka. Mental and substance use disorders are the leading causes of disability worldwide. So we should not neglect these important conditions. When you look at the Sri Lankan statistics, I think I quote here the Global School Health Survey which was conducted in year 2016. So where we found that 20.7 million is our target population. Anxiety was found in 5% of this 10 to 19 year olds. So it is quite common. Loneliness was experienced in about 9% of our children, and also it is commoner among girls than the boys. Anxiety was also commoner among the girls compared to boys, right? have no close friends, right? This we can't believe sometimes. We think that the children have many friends, but 6% of our population or the school population did not have a close friend. So close friend is important for them to express their feelings, express their problems or the issues with the same age subordinate. So that is very important to have a close friend in all these population groups. When you look at the school experience, this 51% of the children found that other students are kind and they are helpful. So that means, 51% of 49% of nearly 50% of the children do not think that their friends are the same classmates are not kind and helpful to them. So we need to address this issue. And 39% of the school children have been bullied by other students. Right? So the bullying is common at the school level, right? Maybe mostly it is by the peers or the students of the same class or the older classes, right? And also sometimes we see the bullying by the older children and also by the maybe prefects within the school, and also sometimes very rarely by the teachers as well. So therefore this is an area that we need to pay attention. When you look at the health needs of the adolescents, they have many health needs. It's not only mental health, we have to address their sexual and reproductive health needs. That is very, very important because they are growing, they have different experience of physiological experience which they think it is an issue. So therefore the sexual and reproductive health issues have to be addressed, and we have a lot of programs to address this sexual and reproductive health from the Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Health working together on this. Then the mental health. So mental health issues are enormous, so therefore mental health issues also have to be addressed. Substance abuse is increasingly becoming commoner, so therefore we have to pay a lot of attention on substance abuse. Nutrition is another area, especially when the children have a sedentary lifestyle and also being at home without much physical activity. So the nutrition problems are huge. They must be continuous to eat a lot of unhealthy food and also not doing adequate physical activity. So finally they are ended up in non-communicable diseases and more prone to get diabetes, hypertension or cardiovascular problems in the later life. Other things like acute and chronic illnesses, including injuries. Injuries are common among especially adolescents because of their risk behavior. So they try to experience different things. So therefore injuries have been found to be commoner, and also they also get the acute illnesses like maybe influenza, COVID or respiratory tract infections, wounds. So those are common among the adolescents as well. Finally the violence, right? So violence need to be addressed as an important area of concern, especially that affects the mental well-being of adolescents. So mental health and well-being. So we will just talk about what is the definition of mental health. So it is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stressors of life, and able to make contribution to her or his community. So this is the WHO definition of mental health. So this has some important concerns. The person realizes his or her own potential. So that is very, very important, because realizing the potential, what I can do by myself, what are my potentials. So otherwise they will do what they cannot do. They will try to do what they cannot do. So that ultimately can end up in stress. Can cope with the normal stresses of life. So you understand your potential, and also you should be able to cope with the normal stresses of your life. Right? How to cope with the normal stresses? You have to have adequate skills to cope with these normal stresses. Can work productively and fruitfully. So if you are in good mental health, your productivity will improve, and also you can work fruitfully. Able to make a contribution to the community. So that is very, very important. If your mental well-being, mental health is good, you can improve the well-being of your community. Small community is your family. So the family's well-being could be improved, and finally you can even improve the well-being of the community as well. So mental health is the foundation for well-being and effective functioning for an individual and for a community. Well-being is the presence of positive emotions and moods. So you are happy, your contentment is good, right? So therefore, well-being is you are having always the positive emotions and the positive mood. So you are happy always. So we say happiness is one indicator of mental well-being. So that means you don't have negative emotions like depression or anxiety, right? You are satisfied with the life. You have fulfillment of your life, and you have positive functioning. So finally, there is no health without mental health. So if your mental well-being or mental health is good, your health will definitely improve. So now we will look at positive mental health. What is positive mental health? Right? So it describes your mental states, how you are feeling, and how well you can cope with day-to-day life. I think we discussed this about the definition of mental health. So what are the features? So as I said before, you have a positive self-esteem. So I am proud of myself. I can do whatever the challenge I face. So I can face all the challenges. So that is your positive self-esteem. Even if you are trying to do it, you have self-confidence about yourself. So I am so confident that I can take this challenge. Feel and express a range of emotions. Right? You have to always feel the emotions and express. Right? If you want to express something, you have to always express. Don't hide it inside yourself. Build and maintain good relationship with others. I think this is very important for adolescents and the youth. Right? Having good relationship with others, your peers, your relatives, your family members, your teachers. So all are in your community, the close community. So maintain a good relationship with others. You have to associate with them positively, right? Not to hide from them. Feel engaged with the world around you. So do some activities. Do some studies together. So those are very important to be feeling engaged. Do some common activities together. So those are important. Work productively. So you have to live, your living is worthwhile. Right? So, and also cope with stresses of the daily life. Adapt and manage in times of change and uncertainty. So we'll look at mental distress. If you are distressed, how do you identify the mental distress? and the reasons behind it. Why the adolescents and the youth will get more mental distress compared to the others. I think in previous sessions you learned physiological changes during adolescence and also the biological changes in adolescence. So the adolescent is different compared to the adult or a small child. So the brain is still developing and they take challenges or the risk behaviors are common. So therefore, because of the physiological and biological changes, they get mental distress very often. And some other factors will also contribute to this. Especially the mental and physical changes of the body can be reason for your mental distress. So there are added factors which increase the mental distress. Those are like inadequate sleep, right? We know the adolescents, they like to break rest and also do a lot of activities in the evening or in the night. Maybe using the mobile phones or they're doing work, using computer work, right? So those things will reduce your sleeping time. So the inadequate sleep is one of the triggering factor for mental distress. High screen time also has an added factor because screening time will reduce your sleeping capacity and also that can distort your brain functions. So therefore mental distress can be common if your screen time is high. And also they are subjected to risky behaviors like maybe especially the young people, the adolescents are the target groups of our industry, especially the alcohol and the tobacco industry. So they promote the intake through the young people. So therefore risky behaviors, brain is not matured enough to say no sometimes. They like to take the challenge and their risky behaviors can be common among them, especially the alcohol, tobacco use and also the sexual exposure. Right? So if they are not adequately educated about these things, if their life skills are not well developed, they can be the target group for these bad behaviors. So therefore it's very, very important that the development of the life skills and say no to these bad behaviors are important for the adolescents. They are exposed to conflicts because of they are taking challenges, the risky behavior. So the conflicts with sometimes peer groups within the class, maybe with the parents, if they are not agreeable with their work, right? What they are trying to do. So there may be a lot of conflicts within the family, outside the family, within the school. So therefore this may be leading to mental distress. Less leisure time or the playtime activities is another matter of concern, right? So sometimes they are always doing studies and less time for playing and the leisure activities. And also the competitive education is added onto this. They are stressful with the competitive education. So I think those are the main reasons why contributory factors for mental distress among the adolescents and the youth. How do you identify that they have a mental distress? So it may not be typical symptoms and signs of anxiety or depression. Right? But those are pre-symptoms. Before they get the depression or anxiety, the parents, the teachers, health worker should be able to identify this child might have a mental distress. So the common complaints are headache, muscle pain, especially the neck and shoulder pain are very common manifestation of the mental distress. If the child says, I have continuous headache, so that the parents should pay attention. Irregular sleeping pattern, right? If they are depressed, their sleeping pattern will disturbed. If they are anxious, again the irregular sleeping pattern is there. So if the child says, I cannot sleep, I was trying to sleep last night, but I could not. So those are the matters to be paid attention. Losing appetite and burning sensation of the abdomen. So especially gastric symptoms can be a sign of mental distress. Losing appetite, those days I was eating a lot, but now I can't. I don't have appetite to eat. If the child is continuously saying like that, the parents have to pay attention. Falling behind studies. He or she was getting good marks at the examination, good marks in the assignments. Now that has been reduced. So we have to pay attention. And also not only the studies, the extracurricular activities. If there's a deterioration, the teachers should identify this. Feeling weak and getting tired easily, right? So those days I could run a mile without any hesitancy, right? But now I can't even walk a quarter mile. If the child says like that, so there is something that we have to pay attention, right? Even with the trivial work, the child gets tired easily. So parents have to pay attention. And also the other important thing, the losing temper, leading to unnecessary troubles. Always try to fight with the siblings at home. Or with this thing, try to fight with the parents, with the peers within the class. So if there is abnormal behavior like that, always you have to pay attention to the child and say, why this happened. Nice. You might have to refer to a relevant medical opinion. So consequences of mental distress are finally disruption of relationships at home or society. So the child will be isolated from the society, the relationships will be distorted. Losing temper easily and leading to unnecessary troubles. The weakening of the immune system also can happen if they are depressed. So therefore the child can get more illnesses. They are more prone to get illnesses if the weakening of the immune system happens. And also the poor educational achievements leading to mental distress, including illnesses, including deliberate self-harm. That is, they are trying to keep themselves to show that they are going to die. They are going to commit suicide. Right? So that is deliberate self-harm. And also they get more prone to risky behaviors like alcohol, tobacco use, and also substance abuse, drugs, and also finally there is an increased tendency to suicides. So that's why it's very, very important to identify mental distress early and do an intervention, right, to improve their mental well-being. Or if it is severe, refer to a care provision. So we will briefly touch on the determinants of mental health and well-being. I think we discussed a lot of things up to now. When you look at the determinants of mental health, there are biological factors, individual and biological factors. Some are modifiable, some are non-modifiable. Especially the childhood abuse, childhood trauma, violence or neglect. So their experience is very, very important. So this can affect the later life. If the child abuse has happened, that person their behavior or the mental health is not like a normal child. Biological and individual factors, some are modifiable and some are non-modifiable. So the childhood abuse, trauma and violence or neglect. If the child has been abused in the childhood, or if the child has some sort of violence or neglect during childhood, those children will have they are more prone to get mental ill health. So those are some of the important determinants. There are non-modifiable factors like genetically you are more prone to get mental ill health. Loneliness is another important factor. That is why the good relationship, even at home level, at the school level, is important. Long-term physical health conditions also can lead to mental illnesses. And also problems at school, relationship problems maybe with the opposite sex or with same sex, right? And also some substance abuse. So those are determinants, right? And even the diet and the physical inactivity, like unhealthy lifestyles, are biological factors which determines your mental health. So there are some family factors that determines your mental health. I think, as I said before, the domestic violence, even the parents fighting each other, the child will observe those things, and that have an effect on the mental well-being of the child. Parenting style, how the parents look after the children. If the parents are not looking after the children, if the caring practices or the parenting is not good, the child is more prone to get mental illnesses. And also the mental illnesses of the parents or the siblings are the important factors. When you look at the social factors, there are some social or socio-economic factors which can lead to mental ill health or mental well-being. Gender discrimination, homelessness or poor housing, they don't have a place to stay. Then the human right violations, low levels of education, poverty, rapid social change, social isolation or discrimination, and stressful work conditions if they are working at a workplace. So these are some of the social factors which can lead to mental ill health. So therefore, our society should be able to provide some sort of benefits by identifying these groups, I think especially the extreme of poverty, the homelessness or the poor housing of the people, and also the human right violations if there are any cases, right? If there is a social isolation or if the people are being discriminated at the community level. So that's why our health and unhealth people have to work together and identify these high-risk groups and provide some sort of a care for those high-risk population groups. And also the unemployment is also finally matters a lot. Now we focus on promotion and prevention of these conditions. Early childhood interventions. So we already have these programs in our life course approach. What do we have in promoting mental health? So we have the ECCD, Early Childhood Care Interventions, home visits for pregnant women, early childhood care and development program, and the preschool psychosocial activities. So these are already available. We need to strengthen stimulation of the child, starting from pregnancy up to the childhood. So first 3 years of life of the child has to be paid a lot of attention for childhood stimulation. Support to children, skill-based programs, starting from preschools. Kindergarten is very, very important. Not only at the life skill training at the school level, even at the kindergarten. What are the skills that we can give to a child? Especially in maintaining personal hygiene. We can educate them at the kindergarten level. And also child and youth development programs are there, especially with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, with a lot of other agencies. So we need to support the children by improving their skill-based approach. Socio-economic empowerment of women. So there are a lot of micro credit schemes, some of the programs and all, right? So these are very, very important. And also improving access to education is very, very important. I think we have a lot of very good education system in the country, but we need to identify the social determinants and improve this access to all the children, the good quality educational system. Social support for elderly population. So this is another important area. Community daycare centers for elderly, befriending initiatives are important. And also the program targeted at vulnerable groups. Already there are a lot of target vulnerable groups, which are ethnic minorities, plantation sector. Sometimes we see that these are vulnerable groups, we need to pay a lot of attention. And also the migrants, people affected by conflicts and the disasters. So psychosocial interventions are also very, very important, especially following disasters. And also mental health promotional activities in schools. We have already life skill based education, mental health, psychosocial and mental health promotional activities in schools. We have already initiated and piloted in some districts, and these things need to be improved. Mental health interventions at workplace. This is one of the important area that has to be addressed in a standardized manner or priority manner. Stress prevention programs at workplaces. This is very, very important. Violence prevention programs are already there, gender-based violence, the establishment of Mithuru PSS centers. So those are important, and also the reducing availability of alcohol and also the access to arms. Those are important areas that we need to address. Community development programs. These are there, already integrated rural development programs are available. Poverty reduction and social protection for the poor. So the government has initiated many programs already there, but we need to identify the real target groups and give them the priority in these special programs. We have anti-discrimination laws and campaigns, but still we need to strengthen some more, and some of the laws have to be changed, right? Promotion of the rights and opportunities for care for individuals with mental disorders. We have the Mental Health Act, which need to be revised and adopted by the Cabinet of Ministers. Specific measures for adolescents. What can we do for adolescents for good mental health? The one important thing is the unconditional love. The parents have a big role to play. So acceptance, the love, the security. So those are the basic needs of a child. So the parents or within the family, this has to be first implemented. Ensuring that the children are aware that the parents' love is not based on looks or grades of accomplishments. Right? So the parents' love should not be based on the appearance of the child, the grade that the child is in, or the child's what marks the child obtains. Right? Whatever the mark the child gets, the parents have to praise the child. So those are very, very important. Identify the achievements and the capacity of the child. Confidence and self-esteem. So always praise them, even for little things, if they do well. Even brushing the teeth, having meal together, and practicing good meal behavior when they are eating together, washing the hands, removing the dining table, the cutleries after eating. So those we have to praise the child if the child does it, right? even washing their plate after eating. And also the playing, if they play, that also has to be encouraged, right? So encourage them to explore novel ideas and activities. Those are important. Guidance and discipline. So that is very, very important, right? The child should be taught about inappropriate and unacceptable behaviors and actions, even at home, school, and the community. You can discipline the child at home. If the child is doing some bad thing at home, you can punish the child, right? So always everything should not be praised. If there's an inappropriate thing or unacceptable thing, the parents have the right to educate the child, explain what he did, and then try to get them corrected. So the first discipline has to be happen at home, and then only the school. Surroundings that are safe and secure, right? If the home has to be safe and secure, and also the surrounding, the neighborhood also has to be the same. The child should feel those are acceptable. They should not feel fear to move to a neighbor's house, right? If there's something happen in that place, so they have to be educated. Play opportunities with other children is very, very important, right? Ensure plenty of opportunities to play with other children inside and outside the home. In addition to fun, playtime helps the children to learn new skills, problem solving skills, self-controlling measures, and help them to be physically and mentally happy. So the playing opportunities will increase their creativity. They can even they can explore and prepare their own games also. So that is also important, either physical games or mathematical games. So they can prepare by themselves. Teachers and caretakers who are encouraging and supportive. So if the caretakers, the parents, or the teachers are they have a big role in improving the mental health. So they should be actively engaged in the child's development and support them for positive development. School is another important place that can promote good mental well-being. Your child spends about 6-7 hours in the school, so more than sometimes at home. So therefore the school play an integral role in addition to the family. Nurturing development in terms of social, emotional, academic, and cognitive ability. So nurturing development is the function of the school, the effect of which can influence the children's short and long-term mental health. If one teacher always try to hit or scold or punish the children, so the image of that teacher is there within the child, right? Even if she step out from the school, that image will have a bad effect. School curriculum should incorporate mental health as a subject, I think. Now the new school curriculum with the curriculum revision, so there are a lot of practical aspects to improve mental well-being and also the physical well-being of the child. So therefore I think with the new school curriculum, when it is implemented, mostly the children will be benefited. And also in addition, the school should have special programs, and also the counseling facilities should be established within the school. Right. The school curriculum will have to have things like information on safety, stabilization, awareness, self-esteem, trauma, coping skills, establishing relationship, and planning for the future. So these are some of the topics that has to be included in the school curriculum. Preventive measures. Can we prevent mental illness? Yes, to some extent we can prevent, especially mental distress can be prevented. So how can we improve mental well-being? Or we can What are the preventive things that we can do? Connecting with others. So, I think as I said before, establish good positive relationship with people around, family, friends, colleagues, neighbors. Spend time developing these relationships. There is an added advantage to identify who is the most faithful person to me, to express my feelings, to discuss my issue. So therefore, connecting with others is very important, especially when you are having some sort of a distress. Talk to the others. Discuss your issue. Then you will be relieved. Be inactive. Engage in aerobic physical activities. Walking at least half an hour a day. Brisk walking is very, very important. Cycling, jogging, running. So those are very, very important, right? So engage in aerobic activities. And also leisure activities, right? Drawing, music, listening to music, playing music. Those are very important. So being active is another way to improve. Keep learning. You can learn new skills. Right? So when you learn a new skill, you have an additional self-confidence that I can do this. That if you don't know how to play a guitar, you can try maybe using internet facilities, right? You can try to play. And then you know that I have developed a new skill of playing a guitar. That if you don't know how to play badminton, right? Just get something even borrowed from your friend and play badminton. So that is a new skill that you have achieved that will improve your physical activity as well as your mental well-being. Being introspective, right? Assessing one's thoughts and emotions. At the end of the day, you can see what I have done today. Whether those things have been helpful for me. Right? What did I do when I talked to that person? Was it bad? Should I do it again? Should I apologize from that person? So those are important. Right? Was there any better option rather than scolding that person? Right? So you just think of what you did and then you will try to correct it. Right? Once your thoughts and the emotions are assessing and getting the feedback on that. Laughing is another very important thing, right? So try to laugh, then your happiness will improve, your mood will improve, your mental well-being will improve. Watching a comedy or listening to jokes, right? And or hitting jokes with your friends. So those are very, very important, right? So ultimately you all laugh and laugh. So that will reduce your stress. Engage in charity. So this is very important, right? It's not using money. Even a smallest act can count, right? Smiling, saying good morning in the morning when you enter to the office, right? When you see the other children saying good morning in the classroom, right? A kind word, that is very, very important, right? Or even helping the disabled. You help the person to cross the yellow line, white line, right? Or you go to an elderly home and wash them, help them to get their meals. So those are some charity works that the adolescents especially do, right? So that will improve your well-being as well as you improve the mental well-being of the older people also. So those are some of the important things that you have to pay attention, like the voluntary services, right? You can work in a school, hospital, elders' home, hospice, orphanage, anywhere, even to childhood orphanage, right? Go there and interact with the children who are disadvantaged children who are in the orphanage. So I think some of the youth groups organize these things in the universities, youth camps, right? So these people generally organize these voluntary services. And even from the schools, some schools, they go to the elders' homes, they go to the orphanages and engage in some activities. So charity is another important area. By giving even a 10 rupee or a 5 rupee to a person, sometimes you feel that I have benefit that person. Being mindful, to be aware of the present moment. This is very, very important. How to be mindful? We say Satya Vadima, right? Including your thoughts and feelings, body. So the mindfulness is you be at the present moment, you pay attention to your breathing, breathe in and breathing out, be in a steady position, and practice this for about at least 10 minutes every day in the morning and in the evening. Paying attention to mindfulness, that means attention to breathing. You remove all your thoughts, which is coming to your mind, and keep your mind blank, giving attention to your breathing. So that will improve your mindfulness capacity, right? So you will not think of anything else rather than be at the present moment. So if you are practicing mindfulness in the morning and the evening for about 10 minutes, you can relieve most of your problems, the mental, the thoughts that affect your disturbances can be removed by practicing mindfulness. I think in most of the schools now, this Sati Pasala program is in place. The children are getting a lot of experience or the training on mindfulness with that. Adapting positive attitudes is another important area. Adapting that changes in the life are inevitable. Right? If you get a bad experience in your life, take it positively. Even loss of a family member. Right? Even if you do not pass the exam, right? For the first time, you must get your confidence and try to do it next time in a more energetic manner. So always adopt a positive attitudes. That this happens to me, maybe for a better intervention that I can do in the future. Adapting healthy lifestyles, I think we discussed before also. Adequate sleep, at least 8 to 9 hours sleep is very, very important in young age. Healthy diet and physical activity, avoidance of alcohol and other substance abuse. Do what you think like the most as the first thing. Maybe every morning, if you have a choice to do, what do you like the most, especially during vacation times, right? So first start with the one that you like to do. Then you have a satisfaction. You can do the other things also later on. Even when you are studying, first study the subject that you most like, and then finish that session or the lesson, and then go for the next one. So if you do it positively, then you can positively take the second one also. Mental rest and relaxation, especially the meditation programs like mindfulness and yoga. Yoga is very important in improving physical well-being and also the mental well-being and the breathing. So therefore, the yoga has to be promoted from the school level upwards, even at workplaces. Meditation, at least when you have free time, to have time. At least on a holiday, have time to do meditation, and every day if you can meditate for about 10 minutes, mindfulness or meditation, that will improve the relaxation. Talking to someone trustworthy. When a person is faced with problems or mental disturbances, always talk to someone who is trustworthy. So, to identify the person, who is the person most trustworthy, whether it's my mother, whether it's my sister, my brother, or whether my teacher or my best friend. And that person has to be very faithful and to be confidential also. And then your problem can be discussed with that person. And that person, by telling the problem, will ease your mental distress. So that is important to discuss this issue. And then to see who is the next person that we both will move forward. And engage in some leisure time activities like what I did before: music, drawing, dancing, reading, those things. So making services youth friendly. So we are now establishing youth friendly services in the community as well as in the hospital level. Already there are some youth friendly health centers. So what is important is the service providers should be competent. I think we are doing this training to make them competent. Ability to identify the actual problems. You should be able to identify the problems by probing into the situation. Actively look for those who do not reach us for help. All are not coming to our services. So we have a community network for them to identify those who really need the help and get them down to our clinic centers. Attention to privacy is very, very important. We have to maintain privacy and also maintaining confidentiality. Those two are very, very important. If we break these two, they will never come back to us. Prevent them being stigmatized. You should not say, now this child has suicidal ideation, so that's why they came to me, right? So don't stigmatize children. So as health workers, you should support them as much as possible and not stigmatizing, not breaking the confidentiality. Advise on factors that improve positive mental, not just to treat the condition. Advice in positive mental health, what I discussed before. And do a lot of group activities with the youth to improve the positive mental health. And establish link with the other agencies outside the health sector. Right? We have a lot of officers who are working at the divisional secretary level who can help us. And also they are capable of providing the required services. Then you have to identify the children or the client who needs special care, especially those who are severely distressed. So by looking at their signs and the symptoms, you should be able to do it. And also those with persistent changes in the mood, behavior or sleep or appetite without any obvious reason. So you have to pay a lot of attention on them. And also those who seems to be hopeless and don't want to go on living. If they have some suicidal ideation, they have to be paid special attention. Don't leave them alone. They need some care. And also those who are incapable of handling their usual day-to-day activities or responsibilities. So they have to be referred for mental health services. So what are the services that we have? We have curative, preventive and rehabilitative mental health service components. So in curative sector, we have acute psychiatric inpatient care, the clinic-based care. Sometimes the clinics are institutional and also outreach, even conducted at the smallest hospital as outreach clinic. The preventive, we have to talk about this mental health promotion, especially looking at this mental well-being of the adolescents and the youth. Alcohol and drug use, there are preventive programs which are implemented by the Directorate of Mental Health. Suicide prevention is another important area. We have to do a lot, but coordinated action is important for suicide prevention activities. Rehabilitative, in the mental health, we have the intermediate care centers and the long-term care, then the day care, and also the rehabilitation for substance use disorders. So all these facilities are available within the Ministry of Health and the provincial health authorities. So at the ministry, the Directorate of Mental Health is there. In the provincial and the district levels, we have the regional and the provincial health structure, where our MH, there's a district focal point, medical officer mental health, is coordinating the mental health activities at the RDHS level. And also at the institutional, we have the consultant psychiatrist who is in charge of the clinical care and also the organizing of the psychiatric care, and also coordinating with the direct environmental health and the preventive health staff to support the preventive health activities as well. MO psychiatry and the MO mental health are medical officers who are supporting the clinical care, and also they have a team of community psychiatric nurses, psychiatric social workers, occupational therapists who are mainly trained for mental health, mental psychiatric care. And also in some districts where the community service officers or the assistants to provide field-based activities, especially in the northern province, these officers are available. So the services have been expanded, consultant units and the acute psychiatric inpatient units. There are so many numbers available. And also when you look at the acute inpatient psychiatric units available in tertiary care facilities with inward care. National Institute of Mental Health in Angoda, which has 8 inpatient care units and provide intermediate and long-term care as well. Outreach mental health services are available at the district level, which is coordinated by the specialist care unit, and also provide regular mental health clinic at the smallest hospitals available, conducted by sometimes the MO mental health or MO psychiatry under the technical supervision of the psychiatrist. Home visits are also done by the team of health workers, especially the community psychiatry nurses and the psychiatric social workers. Rehabilitation centers, there are 23 available in Sri Lanka. This is mainly to provide care for rehabilitation of the patients. And also the community support centers are important to establish at the district or the MOH level. So this is mainly to serve as a promotion of mental well-being. I think there are about 17 community support centers which are already established, and there is a plan at the Directorate of Mental Health to expand it further. So this is a community-based center where the medical officers of health can implement in their MOH office, MOH area in identified clinic center, which is easily accessible and also feasible to conduct, which provide the supportive services for promotion of psychosocial well-being for all age groups, either for children, adolescents, youth, women, men, elders. Anyone can come to this clinic, this center, and you can do a lot of promotional activities even for elders. One day you can get down the elders, maybe another day get down the youth groups, and do promotional activities in this community support center. A well-equipped clinic center can be utilized for this purpose. I think when you are getting this adolescent-friendly health services or youth-friendly health center in your MOH area, so try to develop this concept of community support center, because on the days that you are not conducting the youth clinic, you can get the other groups as well. So there are other vulnerable groups can be taken in, and also the caregivers. If there are caregivers of the children with special needs, so they can be given a training. Consumers, the mentally ill patients can be, maybe some activities can be done for them in this center. So therefore, it's very, very important to have a field-based community support center for these vulnerable groups. So outreach mental health units also we discussed, and this is done by the team of health workers going out to the community and treating the patients. Child psychiatry, child and adolescent psychiatric services are not really well established. Only a few are available in Sri Lanka. About 6 consultant child and adolescent psychiatrists are available. We need to expand these services, and at the regional level you can get the support of consultant adolescent psychiatrists who are available in your districts, especially when developing adolescent mental health services in our districts. De-addiction centers or the rehabilitation units, There are about 7 centers are located in Sri Lanka. So this is mainly for rehabilitation of the substance users and also mental health needs during emergency situation. So there are mental health teams which are moving outside the office level, going to the district level, going to the disaster affected victims and providing psychosocial first aid and the support. So that program is also available at the Directorate of Mental Health. Consumer and care groups are very, very important, especially for mental illnesses. There are about 70 groups in the country and some are very active, like Consumer Action Network of Mental Health in Sri Lanka, which is doing a lot of work on improving or rehabilitation of mentally ill people. So I think that's what I wanted to highlight you on the adolescents, the mental well-being of young persons, and then what are the actions that we can take as a preventive health team to improve their mental well-being and also the available mental health services. Thank you very much for your attention.